disgusting moments on paternity court.
It just adds up that she has slept with 3 men on her job. So, wait, hold on now. Now that's another lie you just told right here. 20 years younger than you, who should be a child in your eyes. Why would you joke around with her?
Mr. Bosley and his mom are pissed at the defendant, Ms. Jackson. After being cheated on multiple times, there was no way he was going to accept Ms. Jackson's son. But things got very messy very quickly.
Ms. Bosley, you and your son have petitioned the court for a DNA test because you are certain he did not father the defendant's 3-month-old son, Maverick, and there are 2 other possible fathers. Ms. Jackson, you admit to cheating with another man, but claim to be certain that Mr. Bosley is Maverick's biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So Ms. Jackson had already admitted to cheating on Mr. Bosley, but she still insisted that he was the father to her 3-month-old son. And every time you see the plaintiff standing next to his mom, you already know how heated things will get.
I feel like my son made a terrible decision by signing a birth certificate. I don't want my son to have to go through life wondering if this is his child or not.
Mr. Bosley, you signed a birth certificate,
Yes,
even though you had doubts?
I did sign the birth certificate. Not saying it wasn't the right thing, it was stupid.
Bingo! Like we said, moms always heat up the courtroom, whichever side of the stand they're on. Mr. Bosley's mom, Mrs. Bosley, was actually the one who opened the case against Ms. Jackson. According to her, Mr. Bosley wasn't supposed to sign the baby's birth certificate, but guess what? He already did. Mr. Bosley recognized that he wasn't supposed to sign the birth certificate that fast, and he was in court to prove it.
In the beginning, we were working together, and he was starting off like, "Oh, I love you. Do you believe in love at first sight?" And then the next day we was talking, and then we had sex. And then he was talking about, the kids and all of that. And then I asked for a break because we were moving too fast. I already said that we was moving too fast in the beginning.
Oh, well, would you look at that? Mr. Bosley was the one who initiated the relationship. And to make matters worse, he was moving at light speed. With talk of love at first sight and making babies, Ms. Jackson got scared. Who wouldn't? She actually decided to take a break from Mr. Bosley since things were moving way too fast for her.
You do sleep with him?
Yes, I had my own place at that time, and I moved him in. Then that's when the cheating, I made my mistake of that 2 weeks of me not knowing if this is real or not.
Ms. Jackson may have tried to exit their relationship quickly, but she just couldn't match up with Mr. Bosley's speed. They'd known each other for only 2 weeks before Ms. Jackson invited Mr. Bosley to move in with her. These weren't baby steps, folks. They were steps to a baby.
What happened? You tell me, because I can't get it out of Mr. Bosley.
I had gave oral sex to this person.
What man will believe that she only gave you oral sex?
This is exactly why y'all don't have no business, young, running around here, using sex like it's like an extracurricular act.
Mr. Bosley and Miss Jackson weren't actually a couple when they decided to move in together. But Mr. Bosley was still protective of Miss Jackson, even though he admitted not being in a relationship at the time. So when she talked to a random guy, he was peeking out of windows and trying to listen through doors to figure out what was going on. And before he could even say what he found out, Miss Jackson dropped the news like a bomb. She was giving oral sex to this random guy.
So Miss Jackson, when you found out you were pregnant, you told Mr. Bosley?
Yes, Your Honor. And then he was like, "Oh, wow, you are." He was excited about the situation.
And y'all had known each other all of 2 months then, and y'all was excited?
It was a guy.
Wasn't 2 months, it was a month.
It was a month?
Yep.
No, I wasn't excited. The 2 guys she cheated on me with, those was the guys that we worked together with.
Oh, so all of you all co-workers?
Yes, we all was co-workers.
This case must have been a clown car because people just kept popping out. So within just a month of knowing each other, Ms. Jackson revealed to Mr. Bosley that she was pregnant. According to her, he was super excited when he heard the news. But according to him, well, you already know how that goes. He also mentioned that the 2 men that Ms. Bosley cheated on him with were actually their CO workers. That must have been a pretty busy workplace.
Your Honor, I only cheated on him once.
didn't.
And that's with the person that was at work. But I did have sex with one other person that was there at the job. And that was the person that came to the house. The other person that I didn't have oral sex or
This
sex.
is a mess. This is a mess.
Yeah.
Miss Jackson wasn't having it though. She denied having cheated with 2 guys. But in the same sentence, she admitted to having cheated on Mr. Bosley with 2 guys. Confused? I know. So are we. Judge Lake thinks that this is a mess. And who can disagree? She might have dug her own grave with one fumbled testimony.
It just adds up that she has slept with 3 men on her job. There should be no young woman out here sleeping with 3 men at her job. And that's why I'm like, what's going on here?
It's getting hot in the courtroom. It's rare to see Judge Lake get this mad at someone, but you can totally understand where she's coming from. Sleeping with 3 men isn't too crazy, but having sex with 3 men that you work with is downright insane. You can see the shame slowly creep in for Miss Jackson.
If you have slept with 2 coworkers, given oral sex to one, while you supposedly getting to know Mr. Bosley, no, it's not so far-fetched that people would also assume that you may have slept with that person or maybe even another person. Because there is no reason a beautiful young girl like yourself.
Cue the waterworks. After a stern lecture from Judge Lake, Ms. Jackson bursts into tears. The judge just can't figure out why a young, beautiful woman would be so promiscuous with her own co-workers. She also gave a few words to both Ms. Jackson and Mr. Bosley for messing around and getting kids at such a young age.
Actually, how the situation went about, I was in her phone one day. I had seen the dude, and I said, he looked just like my son. I'm like, what? Like,
Your Honor, he sent me that picture, and immediately, just in all honesty, I was like, that's not your son.
And Mom, once you got that picture,
Once
you
I-
believe
Oh, yeah.
this other
For
man
sure.
is the father.
Things were only getting worse for Miss Jackson. Mr. Bosley revealed a picture of one of their co-workers side by side with a picture of Miss Jackson's son. On top of that, he also showed some provocative text messages between Miss Jackson and that co-worker. And oh boy, did those light up the courtroom.
What's your relationship with Miss Jackson?
We met through a friend, and then we started talking through social media.
Was Miss Jackson interested in a sexual relationship with you?
Yes, Your Honor, she was trying to have sex.
So do you believe you are Maverick's biological father?
No, I don't. I just came here to prove that I'm not.
That's a lot to unpack. So when the co-worker in question, Mr. Green, was welcomed into the courtroom, his testimony pretty much aligned with everything we knew so far. He had been sexually involved with Ms. Jackson. Mr. Bosley was also given some harsh words by his mother for his irresponsibility. It was all coming to a boil, and it was finally time to admit if one or neither of the 2 men were the father.
The biological father is Mr. Bosley. Your son.
okay,
Your biological son.
well, it's off my chest. That's all I came here for. That's all I wanted.
We've got another mom collaboration on our hands. Both the plaintiff and the defendant are accompanied by their mothers, and the guy's mom is about to find out if she's a grandma to the defendant's 1-month-old daughter.
Mr. Hodges, you and your mom opened your case today because you both say the defendant is a liar and a cheater. Ms. Willard, you too are here with your mother, and the 2 of you testify that you are 1,000% sure Mr. Hodges fathered your daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So Mr. Hodges doesn't think that Ms. Willard's daughter is his, and neither does his mom. On the other side of the aisle, Ms. Willard is positive that Mr. Hodges is her daughter's father. And you guessed it, so does her mom.
Cheated on me, and I caught her with multiple guys. She had one hidden in the room, and whenever we first got together, she said that she would never hurt me or cheat on me. She would be truthful.
Wow, that got heated so fast you would swear there was a blowtorch in the courtroom. Mr. Hodges claims that Ms. Willard is a liar and a cheater, and apparently he's caught her multiple times with different men.
I had a guy over at my house, yes. He was visiting because he was a childhood friend. I didn't tell him because I knew he'd flip out because I know how he is.
Oh, you met her after she had a one-night stand with another guy, and then she cried on your shoulder. And then you and she got together.
Yes, Your Honor.
So Ms. Willard had her defense locked and loaded, so when the judge asked her to give her testimony, she was ready! According to her, the guy she hid from Mr. Hodges was actually her childhood friend, and the only reason she hid him was because she knew how angry Mr. Hodges would get. But according to Mr. Hodges, Ms. Willard is a serial liar. So will her testimony hold up against Mr. Hodges' accusations?
You are the one who pushed your son to open this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
And why did you do that?
Because I knew that she had been cheating on him. He had caught her with another guy that she said was a friend, but yet he was hidden in her house when my son got there.
You found him hiding in the house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hiding in the house where?
In her mother's bedroom.
Yup! The couple was engaged when all this drama was unraveling. Mr. Hodges' mom pressured her son to open the case against Miss Willard because she knew that Ms. Willard was cheating on Mr. Hodges. But were her motherly instincts right or wrong? They seemed to be right so far, since Ms. Willard had already admitted to hiding her childhood friend in her mom's room. And get this, her mom was in on it too. Ms. Willard's mom chimed in on all the action, stating that the only reason she helped hide the guy was that she knew that Mr. Hodges had a really bad temper. But hey, someone with a monk's temperament would flip out too if that happened to him.
Honor, she was already married when they got engaged that my son didn't know about.
So you were engaged to Mr. Hodges, but you were married to another guy at the time?
Yes, Your Honor.
I feel like he has been deceived and took advantage of.
What was your first impression when you met Ms. Willard? What did you think?
I thought she was sneaky.
And the house of cards came crumbling down. After Mrs. Hodges' testimony, Ms. Willard was now cemented as the villain of the story. Hiding someone she was allegedly cheating with in her house was bad enough, but getting engaged to Mr. Hodges while she was still married? That's just diabolical!
Is Lillian your only child?
No, Your Honor.
She hid that from us too, at first.
Back it up. Back it up. So she hid that she had a husband before she met you, and you were engaged to her when she really already had a husband. She hid that she had had a child, and she also hid a man in her mother's house when you came over.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Willard must be great at hide and seek because she was hiding relationship deal breakers like a pro. Things were only getting worse for Ms. Willard and her mom, and the longer the case went on, the more guilty she looked.
She called me and she said that she was 8 months pregnant, and
8 months?
yes, later on down the road, I'm sitting there texting her every day, asking about the baby, seeing if the doctor's appointments are going well and everything. Come find out whenever we called her OBG to see when her next appointment was, they said it was her checkup for the baby.
Checkup?
Yes, ma'am.
How does one person have so much to hide? Ms. Willard managed to hide the fact that she had been pregnant and had given birth to baby Lily from someone who could potentially be the baby's father.
May 27th, Ms. Hodges writes to Ms. Willard, "How's the baby doing?" Ms. Willard says she's okay, her lungs aren't fully developed right now. And then you write, "And when is she due?" That was on May 27th at 8:25 a.m. And Lillian was born on what day?
May the 23rd.
The court's reaction was enough to say it all. It wasn't hearsay anymore, and Ms. Willard had been caught red-handed yet again in a lie huge enough to break any relationship apart. Lying about the baby being born was so unnecessary, but she did it anyway. The proof was in the pudding, and boy, oh boy, were we eating that pudding up.
But I want to know why. Why are you lying? What was the lie about? Was it because you wanted to be with the other guy, so you didn't want Mr. Hodges up there?
No, that's not why.
Your Honor,
what was it?
she wanted to do a DNA test on the other guy first.
Just to make sure.
So hold on now. Now that's another lie you just told right here.
At this point, Ms. Willard had weaved so many lies up that she'd entangled herself. She might have tripped up when she lied to Judge Lake about speaking to the other guy, about her baby, and the possibility that he might be the father. If Ms. Willard was Pinocchio, her nose definitely wouldn't fit in the courtroom.
Did you tell the other guy, could he possibly be the biological father, and you said no?
I never told him that. He wanted a DNA test, so I was gonna give him one. And then we found out he was the dad, and he was like, well, don't worry about it, because now I know.
How'd you find out he was the dad?
Because
We're here in this courtroom to find
Because
out.
the way that she looks.
just like him.
This was a mess! Ms. Willard was crying, and Mr. Hodges was clearly lost in thought. There had been enough drama between these two young adults for 2 lifetimes, and it was finally time for some peace and calm. And at that point, the only thing that could bring the peace they so desperately needed was the DNA test results. Let's hear it!
Mr. Hodges, you are the father. We have the answer we needed, and it was actually the answer all of you wanted. You okay, honey?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I want to meet with you both in my chambers. Knowledge is power, right? And in order for you to be able to teach Lillian the things you need to teach her, you have to be willing to do the same.
This case is so crazy it might as well be a joke. And don't worry, you'll get that reference soon enough. Ms. Boyd was furious at Mr. Henderson for denying their 27-year-old daughter and causing emotional distress to both Ms. Boyd and her daughter.
Ms. Boyd, you say the defendant's paternity denial destroyed your daughter's childhood and has caused emotional distress to prove that Mr. Henderson is Regina's father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Henderson, you say there is no need for a DNA test because it is impossible that you are Regina's dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's worth noting that the child in question, Regina Wilson, is 27 years old. That means if Mr. Henderson is really Ms. Wilson's father, he has been absent from her life for nearly 3 decades. That's terrible any way you look at it.
Well, Your Honor, I met Ruben, and he used to come by my house like for 2 years. Basically that, I couldn't really get out often to see him.
And so this started when you were younger?
Yes.
And he was in pursuit of you. He made it known that he wanted to get to know you, date you, and he would come by your house.
That's where I thought, Your Honor, yes.
Like many, many men that had come before him and after him, Mr. Henderson would say anything to get in Ms. Boyd's pants. So he wooed her, charmed her, and lied to her until he had accomplished his ultimate goal, to sleep with her. But as is often the case, that one night of pleasure was the door to a whole world of problems.
So what happened that night, Ms. Boyd? What happened that night?
It wasn't even that night. It was in the daytime because I'm not allowed to be outside at night. So anyway, he took me in, I guess I don't know whose room it was, but we did it, and Your Honor, it happened so fast, that's why I didn't even think it could have been his baby.
That's what I'm talking about now. You told the truth right there.
But hold on, Mr. Henderson,
okay.
didn't nobody say it gotta be long?
Okay.
Interesting. Thanks to a no-holds-barred testimony from Ms. Boyd, we got a few more details about this relationship than we had bargained for. So Mr. Henderson and Ms. Boyd got down and dirty once, many years ago. But according to both of them, it was over before it had even started. They finally agreed on something.
We didn't have sex. She came into the room, and when she took off her clothes, I said, man, not now. Not now. I was too blitzed. I was high. She took off her clothes, and then when I took off my clothes, that was it. It was over.
And how do you know that if you were admittedly under the influence?
At time I got on top of her, it happened.
Just that fast.
Just that fast.
Things just took a surprising turn. So apparently Mr. Henderson denies ever having sex with Ms. Boyd. He sounds very convincing, but hey, it was 27 years ago. He probably forgot the details. And if it was as quick as Ms. Boyd put it, his mind probably just blocked it out to protect his self-esteem.
At the point you find out you're pregnant, take me to that moment, Ms. Boyd.
Okay, first of all, I didn't think it was his baby because I was with somebody else at the time. So when I did find out I was pregnant, that's why I didn't think it was his. That's what I mean by I wasn't experienced because it happened so fast, I didn't know I could have been pregnant by him.
So Ms. Boyd just admitted that at the time she was intimate with Mr. Henderson, she was also seeing another man. When asked if she used protection, she said no, and we know what that means. This just got a lot more interesting.
Okay, well, down from the apartments, we got mailbox all in one spot.
Okay.
So I'm walking down there with her in the stroller.
With Regina in the stroller.
Right.
And what happened?
And he walks up to me and told me something, is that my baby? And I told him, no, it wasn't his baby. And then he like, well, can we take it to my mom? So I told him, go ahead, it ain't your baby. So he took her in there and came back to me and said that his mama said that's his baby.
Did that happen, Mr. Henderson?
That's what you said now.
No! The confusion in this courtroom is insane. Did Mr. Henderson want the child to be his or not? Was the other man Ms. Wilson's father or not? At this point, we had more questions than answers, and we were desperately looking for some clarity. But what we got instead was borderline evil.
Mr. Henderson contacted me on Facebook saying, I'm your daddy. And then I'm like, is he trying to talk to me? Because he had his cat daddy blue suit on, and I'm like, oh, okay. My mom was in the room at that moment, so I asked her about Mr. Henderson. She said she forgot all about Mr. Henderson. Me and Mr. Henderson exchanged numbers. I go over to his house and spend time with him, trying to build a relationship.
Yeah, you heard that right. Mr. Henderson literally got a hold of Ms. Wilson on social media and texted her that he was her father, unprovoked. From there, the two went on to bond, exchange numbers, and even meet at Mr. Henderson's house. But according to Ms. Wilson, she'd never heard from him since. But what Mr. Henderson had to say about that situation was absolutely insane.
I was going down my Facebook page, and I see Renee's name. Her daughter's name was Regina. I said, let me, just joking. Hey, I'm your dad.
Oh, come on, you were that.
I said, I'm your dad.
Mr. Henderson has a nasty habit of finding ladies on Facebook and telling them that he's their father as a joke. Now that's one twisted sense of humor. With the whole court against him in Jugda Lake, well, judging him, Mr. Henderson was drowning in shame.
What kind of joke is that?
I was joking around with her. Oh, that's Facebook. I joke around.
Why would you joke around with a young woman 20 years younger than you who should be a child in your eyes? Why would you joke around with her? What's funny about that?
I joke around with a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do.
So have you ever said, I'm your daddy to anybody else?
Yes.
So you just go around telling young women, I'm your daddy?
Yes, even though I ain't been intimate with them.
For what?
Just out of entertainment.
Now this case had one major revelation. Mr. Henderson was not the kind-hearted, sweet-talking gentleman that we met at the start. And if he is Ms. Wilson's father, then boy, does he have a lot of catching up to do. It's time for the DNA test results, and with everything at stake here, nobody is smiling.
Are her father.
I want to say, I want to apologize to him because he did try to tell me in the beginning. But I just hope you really do step up in her life because she really needs him.
I will.